Deputy Lieutenant, ladies and gentlemen. My cat knew first. A cat that was typically distant, somewhat aloof, had become attentive and affectionate, glued to me like a shadow. Waking up in the middle of the night, he was there every time, curled up right next to me. I put it down to the fact that he was getting older, but no, he knew. It's not unusual to hear that pets know that their owner has cancer or some other illness before the owner knows. I'm sure we've all heard of the woman whose dog kept nuzzling her breast. She went to the doctor. Sure enough, she had breast cancer. She got it in time and lived to tell the tale. But I know of a different story of animals. This is also true. And it's about the cat who lived in the nursing home when my own grandmother had lived. This cat always seemed to know who was going to die next. It would hang around the person who was close to passing until the death had taken place. Then it would fade into the background and reappear at the appropriate moment to be company for the next person whose death was imminent, whether they knew it or not. At the time of my diagnosis last September, I wondered and indeed worried, was my cat the portent of death, like the cat in the nursing home? Or the early warning sign for treatment and survival? Only time would tell. It's a Friday evening in October last year, my favourite evening of the week when I kick back after a hard week's work and just chill with my son. As I look at him, I think, dear son, I haven't told you yet about all the tests I'm having to figure out what type of cancer I've got and where it's got to. I am going to, I promise, but only when I have something tangible to tell you. I'm due to hear this coming week the details of my treatment plan, so this will be our last Friday night unaffected by it all. This is an excerpt from an email I sent to my team at work a few days later that week. Dear lovely team, so I think you know, I was back at the hospital again this afternoon. I tell you, that place is so familiar now that I know my way around it with my eyes shut. The nurses are already greeting me with, "Hi, good to see you, how's things?" It's beginning to feel like home from home, the new normal. So I have a bit of a plan now. They want to do 6 months of chemotherapy first, then surgery, and then possibly radiotherapy. The addition of the word possibly preceding radio is a new and welcome addition. Personally, I would like to add the word possibly before the word surgery, but I suspect that's a bit of a long shot despite the fact that it is statistically possible. Thank you for all your amazing text messages and other messages. You are the best. So there we have it. Another big piece of news today, and I wanted you to know just how it all landed. See you tomorrow, Alison. The next day, it's Friday evening again, and the time has come for me to tell my son about my breast cancer. I pour myself a large glass of wine and join him in the living room as he plays the latest game on his computer. Will you come and play with me, Mum? Yeah, sure, but can I talk to you about something first? Uh-huh. And so the conversation unfolds, with me at first using what I think is age-appropriate language for an 8-year-old, but he remains glued to his computer screen. And then I use the words chemotherapy and cancer. For the first time, he takes his eyes away from the computer and looks at me. Will you die? I reassure him that breast cancer is the best one to get. It's so well researched, and the treatments are so much more sophisticated these days. Our conversation continues between the practical that only 8-year-olds can ask about and the esoteric, until I say, is there anything else you want to know? No. Will you come and play with me now? Fast forward to May this year. Chemotherapy, tick. Double mastectomy, tick. Full lymph clearance one side, lymph biopsy the other side, tick, tick. I am moving on with incredible support from my son, my friends, wonderful nursing staff, and 2 amazing physiotherapists. I found out during the surgery back in March this year that the chemo hadn't been as successful as we had thought, And so the radiotherapy has moved from being possible to absolutely definite. It's now time for my radiotherapy induction. Radiographer, to me. Did anyone mention that we might need you to hold your breath during radiotherapy treatment? Me. No. Radiographer. Oh. Well, we might need you to hold your breath during radiotherapy treatment. Oh, okay. My first radio treatment over. I do a Facebook post accompanied by a photo of an imposing Georgian house in the Facebook group I created to support me through this long journey. And here's how it read. Who would know that behind this grand and innocuous looking frontage lurks a huge hospital complex, yes complex, including a laser machine that would not have looked out of place in The Man with the Golden Gun. Well, that's where I was today, holding my breath to save my heart, literally. The expanded lungs move the heart away from the chest wall. It's clever, huh? The treatment included having a cold, heavy, hot water bottle-like pack, did I mention it was really cold, across my chest, which made the above-mentioned expansion of lungs a tad more challenging. But that's one radiotherapy treatment down, only 14 to go, 7 of which will be without the cold hot water bottle. Hurrah! Simples. The only downside I can foresee, apart from the galloping tiredness and the soreness I've been promised, is that the local College Cafe have an early morning offer for only £2 of a coffee and a 6,000 calorie pastry. Imagine the effect of that after 15 days. That's where holding my breath as I walk by may be just as useful. In all seriousness and Facebook posts aside, I do consider myself to be so lucky to have access to such wonderful treatment based on the latest research. Knowing that my heart wasn't at risk as I lay there each day with my arms hoisted above my head was incredibly reassuring. The technique of moving a bar on a screen with your breath so that you know that you have just the right amount of air in your lungs, whether or not you have a cold, heavy bolus lying on top of you, is simplicity itself. And what I've since realised is that with the breath-holding technique made more accessible by these talented folks at Vision RT, I could afford to have radiotherapy as extensive and as aggressive as my aggressive cancer needed it to be. There was no need to compromise on the efficacy of the treatment. So what's next for me? I have another 4 months of chemotherapy tablets to go, but good news, I get to keep my hair this time. And then I have a smaller follow-up surgery at the end of the year. Back at home, my cat continues to be loving and affectionate, but I feel the intensity of his gaze a little less. I hope so.